Children of the world, parents of the world, this is for you. I'm Rowena.
And I'm April. We are best friends and moms to 5 young athletes and sisters to Olympic champions. We have a mission to inspire our kids
and your kids through the stories of champions.
Who am I? I am a champion. Who am I? I am a champion. Who am I? I am a champion.
So excited to introduce our next guest, one of our first guests, my very own little sister, Torah Bright. She's an Olympic champion, a legend in her sport, I'm going to say. She's won every accolade you could want. I'm going to roll them off. She's Australia's most successful Winter Olympian, 2-time X Games gold medalist, 3-time US Open winner, 2-time Global Open champion, 3-time World Superbike champion, a former TTR World champion, ESPY Award winner, and my favorite part of her story, in 2014 at the Sochi Winter Olympics, Torah decided to have some fun and see what she could do. She became the first Olympic athlete, male or female, to qualify and compete in all 3 snowboarding event disciplines: halfpipe, slopestyle, and border cross, a mammoth feat. So she's got this movie out that you all got to see sometime called Out of Bounds. That's going to be amazing. I cannot wait. But even without all these accolades I just spun off, she is just a fierce competitor. And I could not think of anyone that I would want more to talk to my own children about, dreaming big and going for it and mindset and manifesting and miracles and never giving up. So, children of the world, now you get her mind and heart too for the next little while. And Torah, we are so grateful. Welcome.
Oh, shucks. Thanks for having me, guys. I love that introduction from my sister, my big sister, my hero.
Oh, I'm your biggest fan. You know that. And, April and I were talking before the episode. You and Julia, April's sister, who we'll hear from, you really are such a big inspiration for us wanting to share stories of champions with children, because our kids, they've had you their whole lives. They don't even doubt whether they can become a champion because they've seen you both do it. They know what it takes. You've told them the stories. You've mindset coached them. And we have just felt like they were so lucky. April and I didn't have that growing up. We were just kind of like read a book or saw a newspaper or a poster and dreamed of doing what our heroes did. But we think with this platform, we can just share these stories, belief building stories with all the kids, not just our kids. So thank you.
Thanks, guys. I'm so excited to share my story. And I don't know, Rowena, you've always been my hero. And knowing Julia had you as a big sister, April, like, you led the path anyway, and now you're leading the path as the mothers, being the legend mothers, teaching their kids, and you're creating this platform, and I'm just like in awe of you. So thank you. But let's get into it. Let's get down dirty.
Oh my gosh, this is so fun. Okay, so I know that Rowie knows the story, but I know that everybody else wants to hear, especially kids trying to figure out even how do they even know what they're going to get into? Like, tell us the story. Bring us back. Like, how'd you even get into snowboarding?
Oh my gosh. So I was 11 years old, and I guess rewinding a little bit, I grew up in Cooma, which if you know Australia, most probably don't, where Cooma is the gateway to the snowy mountains. So yes, we have mountains and we have snow on them in the winter in Australia. And I grew up in the gateway to the snowy mountains with Rowena as one of my older siblings, but there were 5 Bright kids. And we were on the mountain as a family. Everyone from about 2 years of age got on the snow. And so being the 4th of 5 kids, I think I was just schlepped around. I just remember I just remember being in the back of the car, like, being so tired from the day from being dragged around that I just wee my pants in the back of the car. Like, Mum going, Torah, put your boots back on. Smells.
True story. I still remember these moments.
Yeah. So I mean, that's where it started. I was literally watching what it took for my older siblings to be a part of, I guess, sport, not just our winter sports, but just sports in general. And our mum was incredible because she really did do whatever it took to create every opportunity, for the kids to pick up any opportunity that was given. So I literally lived my life as an early kid watching my older siblings just do it. So when it came to my snowboarding, I was 11 years old. I woke up one morning just saying to mom, like, I remember some stresses were about money and, all the kids doing what they wanted to do. And I woke up and I just go, hey, mom, I think I'm going to cross country ski. Like, I don't need to downhill race. It's fine. I think I like cross country skiing better anyway, because cross country skiing, you didn't have to have the season pass for one. It was a little bit cheaper. I could still enjoy the mountains. Anyway, that lasted for a whole hot hour or something, because that day, like literally hours later, my brother, who ended up being my coach throughout my snowboard career too, mind you, his friend broke his arm, and there was inter-schools competitions where, kids from schools get together in groups and they compete against each other. His friend breaking his arm, then he wasn't able to compete with his friends, so the whole team was going to be out. And so Ben stepped up to the plate and, jumped in to fill this guy's place who broke his arm, but Ben had never snowboarded before. So, of course, Marion Bright, the legend she is, she's like, all right, well, you need a snowboard lesson. And mum booked him in for a snowboard lesson. And I'm there going, hey, can I come? And literally that's how it started. We both had a snowboard lesson and that was it. We were so hooked. And then our little sister, Abby, the youngest of the Brights, she saw us doing that. She wanted to have a go the next day. So then Abby got a lesson the next day. I jumped in on that. And sure enough, that afternoon, all three of us were begging mum and dad to buy us snowboards. We were not going back skiing.
I love this story so much. And I think there'll be parents out there listening, and I'll never forget what you repeat all the time, what our mum did. She didn't just ask for a snowboard coach. She went to the ski school and said, who is your best snowboard coach? You got to be your kid's advocate. And she always was. It's so cool.
Oh, see, that's a part of the story I don't really remember. But yeah, she did. And she actually did that throughout our whole journeys. Like, who's going to be the best for them at this time? So I think why we loved snowboarding so much was it was free, because we all came from like a racing background, and, it's pretty regimented. The training's pretty regimented, as you guys would know, it's all about being fast. And we just felt freedom on the mountain. It's like our eyes opened up and we were just going down the beginner run on Front Valley Perisher and just like doing all these side hits and getting some air, and everything was radical and amazing. So that was how I got into snowboarding.
You know what's so amazing about your story is that you started at 11 years old, because I think kids out there, like, they'll finally find a passion that they love, that they want to do. And they're like, oh, I'm so far behind or whatever, like to be able to see that you started at, I wouldn't say like an old age, but definitely you see all these kids and they're like, my kids, they got on skis. Even me, I was on skis at like 9 months old. And so it's like, wow, that's kind of a 10-year advantage. It's kind of a lot, like, to see that, wow, there's so much that you can do still. I love it. Can you tell us, like, do you have people that have really inspired you along your journey to get to where you got in your sport?
It was my own family for a long time. And Rowena, actually, you were 100% my older sister, my hero. Like, I knew I had this older sister, but I was so young when you traveled. I remember going to the airport and waving you off and like really not understanding that you were going off and doing anything other than just like, oh, I don't know, bye. Like, I'll see you whenever. Like, I didn't have this concept of what it was. But, then mum would keep us updated on you, and then you'd come back from your travels and you'd always bring gifts for us. And I remember that was the best thing ever. So like, just, bringing gifts for little siblings. And growing up, understanding in, later years, just exactly what you were doing and understanding the journey you're on and the hardships, and just watching you just bound over them. I know it wasn't probably that way for you, but that's how I saw it. I saw these hard things come and I saw you just overcome them and reach your dreams no matter what. And so just that, having an older sister like that, watching that, the hard work was pretty much done. Like, that's an imprint that, you can't just make that stuff up. That's an imprint, and that was a deep imprint. And I think that came out in my own life and everyday life now. So you were huge, Ro. Then I reckon back to my snowboard roots, it was also just my brother was obsessed with watching snowboard videos. And he would put them on like all day, all night, TV7, South of Heaven. Like it was watching the snowboard videos, and I guess our snowboard legends was how we connected to this greater industry outside of our little world in Australia, in the snow industry there. Again, like I didn't quite understand that there was this industry outside of our little world, but they were just like these movies I was watching on a screen. And, you know, looking back, I think my brother being obsessed with that taught me how to really emulate other people who are doing things better than you because we watched them on snowboard videos all day long. And then, you know, and then my brother became my coach years later, and we did the same thing. We watched people who did it better than I did, or if it was a new trick I wanted to learn, we would just watch it over and over and over. And in snowboarding, you know, you've got goofy and natural. And what we would do if the rider I was watching trying to copy was I'm goofy, right foot forward. If they were natural with the left foot forward, we would put the video in the mirror. So then it looked like they were actually a goofy snowboarder. So I could take it in a little bit easier and not have to so there's a little trick for you guys. Skating, surfing, snowboarding, anything where you lead with your right or left foot, it doesn't matter. Put a mirror in front of the image and voila, bing, voila, bang, you got it.
Wow. I remember I have that vision in my mind so clearly of you and Ben and Abby just like glued to the TV in the mornings. And I remember the name Terje Harkinson, and I remember the day you called me when you were in Norway or at some competition. You were like, I met Terje. Yes. And you know what you were talking about with watching the technique, the people who are better than you, that's literally our goal with this podcast. You know, like any other champion knows that there's the skill and the work, but then there's all the work you do in the dark with your mind. And for the kids to literally, like the snowboard videos you watch, to plug into this and learn the tricks of the mind through the stories. That's where our vision is.
100%. So looking back, my heroes were these people that I later met through my snowboard journey. It was Tara Dakides, it was Terje Harkinson, it was Kelly Clark, who I later on competed against because I was this girl sitting in Cooma watching the X Games, and Kelly Clark was a 15-year-old girl competing on this world stage. So I was like, whoa, I'm like, she's only, 4 years older than me? No way. So yeah, for me, it was like all those people and shred heroes that I watched too that I kind of emulated and later, did still in my snowboarding career. And then of course, I got a shout out to all the people and the families that helped us along the way, because there was such generosity and such care for me as a young girl. I left the day before my 14th birthday and were cared by different families moving around the world in different locations for, different things or different events, I should say, and training periods. And I think it was their generosity and their kindness that will always stick with me. So I feel like, and then when I joined the Roxy team in the US, I literally felt like I had these older sisters who were these badasses, but then they swept me under their wing. And so I just feel like I've just been so, so blessed and so grateful for all the incredible people and women that have nurtured me and cared for me along the way till I became a woman myself and started making my own decisions.
Yeah. The pay it forward effect, the affirmation we use in our family, which I know Mom taught us when we were little too, people want to help me, people look out for me. And then they come, the O'Donnells. I remember them putting you up in their place in Big White, your first trip overseas. It was amazing. Torah, I want you to talk a little bit more about the times that you doubted yourself and didn't believe in yourself, because I've heard you talk a little bit about this and who you lent on. Particularly, I love how you talk about Ben, like what he saw for you before you could even see it yourself, and how important that is for kids and parents to help surround their kids with people like that, visionaries and people that bring you up instead of tear you down.
That's what I believe made Ben the greatest coach ever of all time, because he really was the visionary for what I could do with my snowboarding and in my competitive career. You know, I was a good snowboarder. I was talented, but it really is who you surround yourself with. And if I had somebody telling me that just keep doing what all the other girls are doing because that's how you're going to get the best results, or da 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 da, I would not have been the snowboarder I was in, you know, the competitive realm, and I wouldn't have made the impact I did. And I give credit to Benny for that. I want to say he's like full-blown PhD nutty professor snowboarder. Like he loves it. He laps it up. And he was an incredible snowboarder himself. And so I guess a few stories that come to mind when Benny and I were on this journey of going, okay, let's learn these tricks that girls aren't doing that are going to set me apart from the crowd, that's really going to make, you know, the difference between like second and first, or even, you know, fifth and being first. It was like these tricks were not being done that we were learning by the female competitors. And I remember, it's not easy, right? Nothing comes that easy. I had to go back to fundamentals. I had to teach myself to learn how to snowboard switch again, and then all the basic fundamentals to then go and learn how to rotate this switch backside rotation, which no one was doing. And it's the one of 6 ways you can rotate in the half pipe pretty much, and it's the hardest. There's a reason why people don't do it. And I remember training in Breckenridge, Colorado, and I was getting okay at riding just the pipe switch. Then I started to do switch backside 360s, and then going on to switch backside 540s. And Sean White, we were hiking the pipe, and he goes, "What are you doing? Just do something good. Like just do a 900 like all the other girls. Like you'll win then." And I was like, thanks for the input, but that's not really what I'm going for. And anyway, I remember distinctly, like, maybe it was 2 or 3 tries later, Sean was walking on the opposite side of the pipe where I was doing the trick, and I did it over his head. I was like, boom. So it was, I feel like we had some people going, well, that would be awesome, but can she do it? And really it was just persistence and the cheerleader and the belief from my coach. We'd set a goal to do something, and yeah, I really was looking like I couldn't snowboard for a while, because the body has to relearn everything. It needs to learn it all, let it all sink into muscle sinews. Your brain needs to compute it, and then it comes so quickly. So I was in that phase for a little while, and people were like, what is she doing? But it was all my brother.
Wow. I love that story. You really highlighted there's going to be doubters, and even some of the doubters are going to be people that you respect, like Sean White doubting you. That's rough, but I love that story.
It was awesome. That's still yeah, I got this.
Sean, are you listening? You have anything you want to say to Torah?
Remember that when we interview Sean?
Yeah.
Did you have any defining moments in your career when it could have crushed you and made you want to quit? Can you think of anything that really, one of those defining moments? And also talk about how, because I think this comes up a lot, like people feel like, kids that are doing these sports, they feel like they have to love it all the time. Did you ever have moments when you didn't love snowboarding, or did you just always love it? Was it always so easy to just get up and go do it? So 2 things, your defining moment and then, your love for it.
I guess let's start with my love for it. I love snowboarding. I loved it from the first minute, because it was really this incredible bond between Ben, Abby and I. And we actually had siblings with 3 other siblings too that were all snowboarding, that we were just rat packs loving it. It was love from the beginning. But then as it eased into taking these opportunities that were really scary to me, like leaving my family the day before my 14th birthday, that was scary, but it was exciting. And when that ended 3 months after that first trip away, I couldn't wait to go home. And then I was like, oh, do I like snowboarding? I was a little oh. So I had so many moments along the way where I feel like I had to reinvent myself and reinvent my love for snowboarding. And sometimes it was just taking a moment to step away and do something different. Sometimes in the middle of a season, it was putting on skis and going skiing. And it just brought me so much joy. Yeah, so the love is always there, but I think when it becomes like your job, it's an interesting one because you're managing the pressures and expectations of yourself, your team. You know, I had a pretty small team. It was me and my bro. But then coming into an Olympic year, it's pretty full on. And I remember this one moment where everything was just breaking down and kept breaking down. Like I think looking back, it was, I kept trying to be everything for everybody. You know, I was meeting the expectation of my coach who saw the vision and created the vision of me and what I was capable of as an athlete with learning new trickery. And then it was balancing the expectations because at the time coming into the 2010 Olympics, like I was the best. So it was balancing the expectations of, for one, the one time in 4 years that the whole of Australia decides to care about snowboarding. You know, everyone's like, she's the best, she's going to win. Da, da, da. Then I've got my sponsors, my coach who has decided that I'm going to do another feat that no girl has done. And I was learning the double crippler in the pipes. So it was a double invert. And I had been learning it. I was working on it and we were trying to, I think it was December before the Olympics. And we were trying to work it into a run. And I just remember I was losing my nerve. And I could only do like maybe 4 or 5 in a training session each day. And I was losing my nerve and I just couldn't do any more. And I think the pressure got to Benny too, because his thought was 2006, a lot of people thought that I was not rewarded. I think I got 5th or 6th and they're like, you most definitely should have been on that podium, Torah. Whatever place, doesn't matter. But I did create this fire within myself that I was going to be undoubtedly the best coming into the 2010 Olympics. And so all of that was weighing on me. And I had my coach who knew it, who believed it. We'd already started like making history again. And I was turning up to training doing these double cripplers and losing my nerve. And one day I just go, I remember feeling it through my body and just going like, I actually can't do anymore. And Benny had this lapse of, I guess we'll just call him human. Super coach Benny had a human moment and he just goes, if you can't do 10 a day, you're never going to do it. And so I went and I did it again and I ended up catching my chin on the coping and busting my teeth. And that was kind of the beginning of my concussion journey too, coming into the 2010 Olympics. So yeah, I really didn't like snowboarding sometimes, I guess, in a long-winded answer. It was really hard to pick myself back up and keep going when I was injuring myself.
Can you tell us, how did you get through that? Do you have any tricks of like when you're in that moment of like, oh, how do I pick myself back up? Like any mind tricks or anything that you feel like helped you?
When you hurt, you got to sit out and collect yourself. That's what I did. I just took time. But in that moment, like there was no time to waste. I was going to the 2010 Olympics and I was going to be the best. I got on a flight that night, found someone to get me into a dentist to get my teeth repaired to make sure like everything was okay. Like, and then I'm like, I got to train. Like, oh my gosh, I've only got 10 days or whatever it is. Like there was no time, you know, you do this quick check. But I think Benny also instilled into me that it was about longevity. So when I really did need to take the time to reset, I did. I'm an extrovert and an introvert. I'm definitely both, but the introvert needs a lot sometimes. So I would just check out. And I think that comes like, and whatever you do in the meantime, that really comes with learning who you are. And I think that's, you know, when people go, what do you want to leave to the young people in the world? And I think learning who you are is one of the most important things, because when you come to understand yourself and know yourself and your needs, then you know how to give back to yourself. And yeah, I just used to create space, and sometimes it was flying off to Rowena And it was just forgetting everything and just being auntie mummy to her beautiful boys. I just used to love it. Sometimes I sacrificed some like really cool trips with friends because I just needed to give back to me. And that was just being like just really grounded in the family unit.
I love that. I want to bring up something you mentioned because it's something I've watched you do over your lifetime. You're a very intuitive soul, and I think we all are, but some people can just tap into it more. And I think as parents of little ones or kids, if you're listening, like that feeling she talked about where she felt it through her whole body, that's like your higher self telling you, teaching you. That's your intuition. And even with my little 7-year-old, he'll have kids at the skateboard park telling him, you can do it, you can do it. And I'm always like, Thor, get quiet. Only you know what you can do, especially in these dangerous sports. And I think that's one of the biggest gifts and habits of listening to yourself, a coach, parent, whatever can give to a kid. So I loved that you talked about that moment and the coming back to the family or fueling yourself. You know, you have been a master. I've watched you really find the fun and find the joy again in hard times. And I mean, you talked a little bit about what you do. Maybe you can give some tips to the kids, like just very practical tips that they can get in that fun vibe again to remember what they love.
I feel like I learnt so much from just being around your kids and always loving kids, really, because kids are so joyful. Like all you have to do is create a funny scenario and they laugh. They're crying, they're upset. You distract them with something that's funny and they laugh and they giggle. So I feel like your kids and all the kids like I've just been obsessing over my whole life have taught me that. So I always share this quote, Mary Poppins quote, because for some reason I loved Mary Poppins as a kid and still do. But in every job that must be done, there's an element of fun. You find the fun and snap, the job's a game. So I think it's however you feel the most joy. But if we're talking about sport, I really feel that most people, and everybody is a little bit different, that where it comes into like learning about how you best function. It comes with trial and error as well. But it's really creating that joy within yourself. And through meditation, at any age, you can teach children how to generate that pure joy, that bliss, that heart that's exploding out of their chest. And it just comes down to that, whether it's a thought or, you know, before I would drop into my half pipe runs, I would put my hands on my knees and I would close my eyes. Sometimes it would take me a little bit longer than others, but I would wait till I felt this energy like come up through my heart and then a smile would come to my face. Then I knew that my heart, body, and mind had this coherence, that I was going to be in that moment and just let the muscle memory kind of take over. And the external pressures, the mind chatter that goes on, you know, every person on a day-to-day basis understands that mind chatter, you know, that you have with yourself and doubts flying in and whatnot. So I think it was literally through meditation that my mother pretty much taught us, meditation and visualization, that I was able to find a way to like get that joy when I needed it. And I guess the bigger things for me, I shared one, like where I just would go skiing. I just do things differently. Like at an event, I was having a hard time and so was another guy, a skier. We switched. He went snowboarding and training. Like that is not a productive way to train at an event, to go skiing, you know, but that's what I needed. So I just kind of broke the mold. I did me. I danced the earth to the beat of my own heart pretty much. And so I say, just play around, get to know yourself, and do not care what other people think. Learn to listen to your intuition.
It's the hardest thing though, huh? It's like so much easier said than done, but I totally agree. I just love that quote that you said. Every time I see you are so fun to me. I've always just like, you're this like fun ball of energy that I just love to be around. You just bring joy to so many people. So the fact that that's like your quote, your motto, it just totally fits. I love it.
I'm pretty silly, but I'm having a good time.
That's what matters really, you guys. Just the fun. Just bring the fun into whatever you do. Okay. So people that know you, they know that you go up these huge walls in the pipe, you do these crazy tricks. Like, how do you get from like, okay, I want to be a snowboarder to like, okay, now I can do all this? Is there like, tell us about the progression or kind of like tips that would, I loved the tip, the mirror tip. That was like game changer. Any other tips you have for just like, if you decide that you want to be, you know, in the pipe and progress to that?
It's really just starting slow, working on the fundamentals, going back to the fundamentals all the time. So, you know, these pipe walls are 22 feet high. Some of the guys go 20 meters out of the pipe alone. So there's 20-foot walls into, you know, the rider that's like sending it out of the pipe. Like you get up there sometimes. You look down and things look a little smaller from up there. It is just going at your own step, like the alphabet, right? You don't go A, D. You go step A, step B, step C, step D. There are all these little progressions, all these little steps in between. And it's just building your momentum. It's building your confidence. When I am helping people in the pipe, it's literally like, you don't need to get up to the coping. You don't need to get out at first. You just need to feel. You need to feel the transition. You need to feel the flat bottom. You just need to create this smooth connection. And when you're feeling confident and you're feeling like you can push yourself a little bit more, you go a little faster and you go a little higher. So it's just very, very small progression steps. And sometimes when you are doing really small steps, you don't realize that you are actually progressing along the way. And so I would just say that just little itty bitty steps that in time you're gradually building on what you're working on. To be honest, I'd say that's the same with even progression into bigger tricks, into higher airs, like everything. It's just a steady progression.
Torah, we've talked a lot about you having fun and finding the joy and manifesting and visualization, but let's talk about the hard work a little bit. I never want to brush over that. I'm not sure if people see you on Instagram, they'll feel your joy for sure, but I'm not sure if they see the relentlessness that I've seen. Talk about what it means to you to work hard. And even like when you talked about 2006 and how you turned what could have crushed you, like that pain, you just doubled down and I feel like worked harder and just, I loved that. Yeah. Determination.
It's really easy to capture a moment of joy, right? And share that. But the work done in the dark that nobody sees, the mental prep, even the relentlessness in like, you know, trying trick after trick after trick after trick, getting, you know, hematomas on my arms, like hitting my head, breaking my teeth, you know, maybe you are powerful enough that you can manifest and, you know, create everything without that. And you have to have courage, grit, and determination and the willingness to just keep pounding the pavement and doing the do. And yeah, 100%. I've done that my whole life. Like, it's so funny because I guess, you know, sport was my whole life. Being the best I could be that's what my everyday was about. Being, you know, creating, the space for me to be the best I can be. You see me clean the kitchen? I'm really good at cleaning the kitchen too.
How you do everything is how you do everything. One thing is how you do everything.
So that relentlessness, I'm just like, kitchen's going to be spotless. What is freshest in my memory is even the injury recovery. Rehab, that's a journey in itself. You have to be relentless to come back stronger than before. I had concussions that totally floored me, like took my quality of life away pretty much. I was not a functioning human. And I wasn't going to accept that was my new life. Like a lot of medical people had told me, like, maybe you just need to accept that this is your new life. Like, that just never sat right with me. So I dug, I asked, I saw different people who might have the answer or part of the answer. And I probably went to, 20 or so different people, and all of them gave me something that I finally got myself back to the life I wanted. And it took courage. I don't know where I found the strength, but I feel like I did learn that from my mother. And I think she's my ultimate hero, really. You know, even Rowena, like I swear, like the people and my journey to my life up until then, like left this imprint and taught me how to dig deep, taught me how to work and work and work and work to be the best snowboarder I would be. And then I came to this point in my life where I needed to do the same to get my life back and my health back so I could keep snowboarding, so I could have a baby, so I could, you know, everything. And it's not so easy to show those moments and what it takes. It's this internal search and this not willing to settle. The people in my life and being the best snowboarder led me to learning that skill, just not to settle. There's always an answer.
I love that you brought that up because it is the spirit of this podcast too. Not everyone has a Marion Bright as their mother, but our goal is to have this community where people can learn through the kids, can dig in, plug in and learn through the examples. And you really are like, it's a rare person that rises without a team, a tribe around them, showing them the way, being examples. You know, your own manager, I spoke to her daughter the other day, Torah, who's a beautiful young woman, a soccer player in college. And I said, what did your mom do right? She thought about it for a second and she said, she just showed me how to live by being a badass herself and standing up for herself. Like you said, never settling. And like the example of that is so much bigger than any words or telling someone what to do. So kids, plug in and listen to these stories over and over again and learn, how to not settle.
The beauty of this digital age is that information is at your fingertips, and you literally have the ability to tap into this village of people willing to share their experiences that you can take on board or emulate their journey. Or it's like you have this digital village. And I love that that's what you guys are actually creating, because although my mother wasn't traveling with me, like I was 14 years old, I was traveling by myself, but I have this village of my snowboard community. And I pay so much credit and respect to my competitors, because I really felt like our era had this ability to lift each other, to raise each other, because yes, we were fierce competitors against each other, but by raising each other and praising each other for the good things that we were doing, we lifted the sport. And ultimately that's what it was. It was about the progression of the sport, bringing it to a wider audience, to, you know, the progression. It's so true. I just love it. I've actually got goosebumps. I'm like, this is going to be life-changing for so many kids. Like,
oh, Torah, you're amazing. We have been having so much fun with you. We have one last question before we let you go. We would love to know, what does champion mean to you?
It doesn't mean winning. That's all I know. It does not mean winning to me. Champion is like, it means heart. It's almost like a champion is someone who's having the best time, somebody who is cheering the others on while being the best they can be, somebody who is the people's champ. It's not being the best on the podium to me. It's a couple of friends come to mind. I'm like, they are champions. You know, Adam Klumper, he's a champion in my mind. I was a young kid snowboarding. He was this cool old guy older to me at the time, who ran the snowboard shop, who used to take me and my siblings snowboarding, nightboarding. You know, like, to me, the word champion just comes to so many different people in so many different aspects, because a champion pays back to the next generation. Because what is your story without making sure you leave it in the right way for the next generations?
Oh, that was from the heart. Thank you. And I mean, Torah, you know, you've always been my hero. You forever will be in more. I wish people knew you in more than just sport. But thank you for bringing your spirit and heart. And I've watched you touch a child's heart, like in person. Like, you always make an effort to get down and look into their eyes and tell them like that you care and that they matter. And thank you for bringing that spirit to this podcast, because I know, like, our goal, even if there's one kid out there that grabs onto your story and remembers one thing, that is the legacy that you talked about. You're a champ. You're the champ. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to I Am a Champion podcast. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show. We are on all platforms, and we really appreciate it.
You can also find us on IG and TikTok at I Am a Champion Podcast and YouTube at I Am a Champion. Until next time, remember, you are all champions, leaving you with high fives, big hugs, and big belief. April and Rowena.
Who am I? I am a champion.